So what people are looking for in terms of place is the focus on the environment that you're going to be in, and whether that is supportive, whether or not it provides you with opportunities and is the right development and nurturing environment for you to deliver your fellowship, but also to deliver you to the future promise that your fellowship should be taking you to. We also talk about place a lot in projects as being the importance of the connectivity of your project to your locality, and that is a bit different. Generally in fellowships, when we talk about place, we're talking about that environment you're in, but it may also be important for your project to show that it's connected to your local community and your local environment in a slightly different way. So what I'd expect to see in that description of place is something that is tells me about the environment the person will be immediately in, but also maybe the broader context of their organisation, and how it will support them. So I'm not just looking for the generic text of this is a wonderful university that does all this, that has all these amazing things at a university level. I want to see how that will help the person. So that is important to understand, that that's a vibrant, creative, challenging space, because those are all important for us academically, but it does need to be made individual to the individual and their project as well. I think showing both the infrastructure is there, that the opportunities would be there and made available to a person, and then that there's support. Now, support is the one that sometimes is a bit more of a challenge these days in the current financial climate, because it's often interpreted to be matched funding commitments. But there are quite a lot of ways in which institutions can show support for an individual that aren't just budget lines, which can be far harder, certainly for a number of institutions to look at. And funders are becoming more aware of the inequalities created if they just expect that to be shown financially, that it will always be the same institutions that get the funding. So it's about how you connect to their strategy, how you fit into their teams, how you work across everything, and that's really the environment you're looking for. We want people to be in a place where they feel challenged, that there's vibrancy, and encouraged to face the future. So what makes a candidate stand out is that, well, it's like tricky, because is it their place that stands out, or is it the candidate that stands out? You know, the challenge, I think, is that if you're a candidate in an area where you're doing something really unique, so you're not in a large team that are all doing the same thing in the same area, then you need to show that you're still connected in some way to your community. So that one. The flip side is, if you're someone who is applying and you're in a big critical mass, almost you can look like you'll get lost in the crowd and you're not special. So in some ways, then it's almost identifying yourself as slightly unique within that community. So when you're writing those place sections, you need to try to understand that relationship, and that it's a little bit different. So you focus on the connections if your research is really unique, but if you're in a bigger setting, then you need to kind of show how you stand out. So a key kind of old school way of thinking was people should move to be good. Okay, and not all of the panels I'm on recognize that is not acceptable anymore, and there's been a big move away from that. But it's important to recognize what might have been the reasons why that movement was considered important, and make sure you cover it in other ways. So the things that you'd need to evidence is all fellowships are about you. So whether they're an early one or a later one, they're all about you showing you're developing your independence, you're developing your own style and your way of thinking. You're not delivering someone else's research. So if you stay in the same place, you would need to evidence that you are now becoming more independent from your supervisor. So, for example, things that stand out as kind of alarm bells are if you're going for a more advanced fellowship, but your entire advisory mentoring team is still the same as your supervisory team. That looks like you're not developing that independence. So there's that question of independence to think about and showing how you evidence it. The second one is a kind of slightly more subtle bit of thinking about how you're thinking about a topic is challenged. So what we find is that big or small institutions and research groups can get a bit of groupthink of a way they look at the world, and that is actually contrary to your development if you only ever stay in one way of doing things. So have a think about how you can expose your way and your approach and maybe your methods to other people and other ways of thinking. That might be visits to elsewhere. It might be virtual visits if you can't travel. And I think funders are far more aware of the inability to travel and the qualities associated with that. But you'd still need to think about how you delivered that challenge for yourself so that you really were developing that independence and moving forward your thinking in the best way. I think it's important as you get to more senior fellowships that you can evidence that you can show how you connect in other ways to decision making in the place. So whilst a lot of the place section is about what it does for you, showing that you can be on leadership groups, be involved in decision making at different places for your institution also evidences you're developing leadership. It's not, sometimes people worry that's a distraction from their absolute focus on their research, but actually when we're talking about funding someone to develop as an individual, aspects of that are really important.